I want to open today's video with that I'm not using a sprite today. I'm actually using a program called Pixel Edit. I'll have the spelling on the screen and I'll have a link in the description for where you can find this program. The reason that I'm using this program is that I personally find it a lot easier to make tile sets and any kind of repeating tile at all with this, including if you just want to make like a background or something. And of course, this background wouldn't necessarily be like a fighting background or anything like that, but I mean, like, if you want something for your desktop, something, just for fun. But I personally just really like this for that purpose, and that's why I'm using it today. I would like to state that I am in no way sponsored by the company or people that made this thing. I just really like it, because as you can see on the screen here, I can just draw with a tile on there, and then it saves the tile at the bottom right someplace. And I can just, it basically is like a stamp. I can just copy paste it all over my screen and it just makes the work process easier for me. Sometimes I like to look at pixel art from older games, and sometimes they're popular, sometimes they're not. But the other day I decided to look at some tiles from the obscure game Legend of Zelda. Why would you look at pixel art from older games, you might ask? And this is because sometimes it's just interesting to see what techniques they used to use back in the day. And it can be quite fun comparing it to how people do it now. The hardware at the time actually had a lot of limitations that we purposely do with our own pixel art today. So I was looking at the rock and rock wall tiles that they used in The Legend of Zelda. I do believe you can actually play this version with a subscription fee on the Switch now. So about these tiles. Usually when I do a repeating tile of some kind, I usually do a grid of if they're like 16 by 16 tiles, for example, I'll do a grid of 9 tiles, and the middle one will be the repeating tile. But what's really interesting here is that they only had so much space and so much that they could do, so they actually used 6 tiles at the time. While I personally prefer my 9 tile, method, I ended up giving this a try, because, it can't hurt. Heck, this might even make making tile sets easier for me in the future. Now, rather than draw the tiles one for one, I'm going to make my own version. This way I can kind of get an idea of maybe the thought processes that went behind it. And because of how my brain works, I also likely won't get bored trying to study this thing. Now, this will be drawn in real time. I'm just making comments about my thought processes after the fact. I found that trying to explain it while I'm drawing it is a bit difficult for me, so I did not do that live. Although I am hoping to start doing more art on Twitch soon, so if you would like to check that out sometime, check for a link in the description, and you should be able to get there. Go ahead and subscribe and everything, and it'll give you a notification when I'm on. And I may make community posts in the future as well, noting when I'm online. So as you can see, I started with the outlines of my rocks. I'm trying to keep them grouped together, but in a pattern that's appealing. Now you're going to see me experimenting just a little bit with the colors. I only have 4 options, but ultimately I decided that the background should be the lightest color and the rocks should be dark. Now, you'll see that I have 2 different sets of these tiles next to each other on the canvas itself. This is because I have one side for the repeat tile, and the right side over there is going to be for the repeat tile at the bottom middle, and then the extra ones around it. Now, at first I did struggle to figure out which color I wanted to use as the base color, and then was I going to add a highlight into it? Was I going to just add shadows to it? But you'll see what I settled on. Everyone does these processes a little bit differently. I figure some people prefer to start with the highlight and add in the shadows, and honestly, the highlight for me is the cherry on top. That's the most fun part. I tried not to reference the original tiles too awful much because I wanted something original that came from my own hands. That being said, don't worry too much about being too perfect about this kind of thing. I mean, rocks in the wild are, they come in all shapes and sizes. It's not too big of a deal. Just make something that you like. I think that for me, the tiling part of these rocks is the easiest part. I don't have to think too hard about it, they just have to look nice together. It's when I get to making the edges and the tops of the rocks that I'm going to struggle. So here I'm replacing the right side tiles with the different tiles that are going to go in their proper places. You can see I'm also reorganizing them over there on the tile area. I like to keep them organized by, where they belong in the tile set down there too, because when you export it as well, you can export each individual tile like that if you want to. On that note, when this video goes up, I'm actually going to have these tiles each available on my Ko-fi. Or is it Ko-fi? I've never quite settled on that. But either way, they will be available for free there for you to download. I just find it easiest to pass around downloadable files through that website. So if you want to snag them to study them or use them as a placeholder for now, you're welcome to do that. I am likely here looking back at the Legend of Zelda rocks, trying to figure out how I want this to be shaped. In hindsight, I realized that I wonder if the devs drew an oval first and then fit their rocks into that. So if I were to go back in time and redo this, I think that I would start by drawing a shape first and then fitting them in there, because I think that that would get the oval shape a little bit better. Sometimes it's better to pre-plan like that. I may not have a lot to say during the remainder of the video, but just know that I'm trying to figure out how I want these rocks to be shaped, how I want the highlights to be on them, or the shadows for that matter, stuff like that. Here I'm trying to round out the edges a little bit more to get that oval look. Now I'm checking the preview box over there to see if I'm getting the shape I want, and I'm going to end up comparing the corner there to the original tiles from The Legend of Zelda. I know that at some point I have to say enough is enough. That's as close as I'm going to get it, and it's fine. I realized that I wanted some darker shadows, so I end up adding that in using the line art for it, and I think it looks pretty nice. From here, I'm going to play with and test the tiles a little bit, and then I'm going to add a little entrance to the wall. So I make a copy of my repeating tile, and I'm going to end up drawing a entranceway on it. Now with the Legend of Zelda's version of the entrance or exit, it's just a plain dark square or rectangle, but I wanted to add a little more depth to it, and I do that by just using my colors to make it look like it fades into the darkness. If you made it this far into the video, I appreciate you sticking around, and thanks for watching. I'm hoping to do more studies like this, I guess if you can call them that, because I'm not technically copying the artwork, I'm making my own version, but I'm hoping to do more of these in the future. If anyone has any specific games they'd like me to look at, especially actually obscure ones, please let me know. Drop a comment below. Thank you. Have a good day.